Good afternoon, guys. Today we're going to talk about how we get out of that black and white thinking and we get into what's called technicolor or gray space thinking. So, as usual, I'm going to share this to the community. I just need to do this and then click this button. Now, if you want the community that will help you break free of your codependency, move beyond your the trauma of the narcissistic abuse you've been through, join the community. The link will be below in the comments. When I'm done, I will post it because we do a lot of this in there, and people have a lot of profound changes just by being in the community, guys. They're not even joining Codependence to Confidence or Get Closure Now. They're just doing these simple weekly experiments and having really big results with it. All right. So how we got to deal with gray space thinking. Or with black and white thinking and moving it to technicolor or gray space thinking. Very important for us to do because this is how we start to learn who people really are. We get out of our codependent fantasy. We get out of the mind state that the trauma puts us in, into that binary black and white all or nothing thinking, and we learn how to include ourselves with others, others with us, and how to see people more dynamically so that we can make more effective decisions about who we develop friendships and relationships with throughout our life. And that's the big goal here. That's why I point this out this week, is because September is all about connection. We're generating and forging new connection both with ourselves and with others. And part of that is to be able to conceive of a person in a dynamic state, and that includes ourselves. We're not all good, we're not all bad, right? We're both. And this is how we move through, or rather, this is how we move out of black and white thinking. We start connecting with the reality of technicolor. This means we start to acknowledge that people are dynamic, that we're dynamic. And we do this with a statement that, hi Dina, this is your statement, called both and. I call it inclusive thinking, or the law of inclusiveness, but it's a both and switch in our thinking. So rather than going either or, they're either this or they're either that, it's more like they're this and that. Or I feel this way and they're this way. Or I feel this way and that way too. See, a lot of times we're not binary, we're complex. We have a variety of things showing up in how we feel and what we perceive. Being able to access that and understand and respect and appreciate that gives us a deeper insight into who we are, into what's going on for us, and it allows us to understand and receive other people in who they are. Now let's talk about this because I'm using words that are very important. They're not random, okay? So in my philosophy with relationships, we actually contribute or share with other people who we are, and then we receive what shows up, who they choose to be, what they choose to contribute. Very different than a give and take model, because typically give and take has force to it, it has rigidity to it, it has entitlement to it, and that tends to create unnecessary problems in how we see and interact with relationships. Now, if we're going to know somebody for who they are, and that includes ourselves, then this dynamic technicolor point of view allows us to do that, because then we can receive them in their wholeness. And wholeness means their warts and their brilliance and their limitations and their faults and where they're growing and where they're not growing and where they do really well and where they don't do well. We're able to understand that person where they're at. And this includes ourselves, okay? So black and white thinking affects us in a lot of different ways. Like, for instance, if we're dating and we're out there getting to know people, if we have a black and white mentality about it, then I'm either excluded or included. I'm either in, what is it? There's a term for it people use. They're out of my league or I'm in their league. It's very boom, boom. And this really influences how we're responding to the dating world. It's going to eliminate viable opportunities, because we're like, I'm not in that, I'm excluded from that, nobody would want me. That person wouldn't want me. Whoa, now we're really screwing the pooch on that one. We're really affecting our ability to have a fulfilling life because we're not saying yes to something. we've got this arbitrary limit because of our black and white thinking. It also gets us seduced into things that aren't real. Because remember, in codependency narcissistic dynamics, generally with anybody who's dealt with neglect on a severe scale, we have a fantasy we create about people. And this is where the white or the all thinking comes into play, because we make them into something they're not. We put them on a pedestal. And this could be just a person we know that's not even unhealthy. They're just a person we know. We're aggrandizing them. We're elevating them. And that disconnects us from them. So we get into the technicolor spectrum of this. We get a chance to see who they are. We get a chance to connect with them, to respect them, to bond with someone real. And we can escape that fantasy and actually have nourishing connection with other people. So this kind of thinking is profoundly affecting how you see the world. So if you find yourself in this black and white all or nothing thinking, like they're either this or they're either that, then you can open up with a both and statement and say, okay, well, they really have toxic behaviors and they have these positive ones, and I feel this way about the relationship. Okay? Because we can be aware that a person's has these very positive components and these very toxic components, and then we can make honest decisions about what we're going to do with that relationship. It's very important. I'm not one that condones staying in toxic relationships, because I'm not a big fan of drinking poison, because staying in a toxic relationship is like drinking a little bit of Drano every day. It's not going to really work out well for anybody. But it helps us see things objectively. But it is not designed to justify staying in it. Just because someone has trauma and they behave in a traumatic or toxic way doesn't justify us staying with them. What really needs to happen there with inclusive thinking is saying, I understand why they behave the way they do, but it hurts me. And I deserve to have a safe and fulfilling relationship too. So I'm going to exit. See, it's never about staying in toxic situations. It's not about creating excuses or reasons to hang out with things that do not fulfill or feed us in healthy ways. Inclusive both and thinking is to help us get an objective point of view on what's going on. Because the bigger risk we really have is after we exit toxic systems, we will maximize problems with healthy people, and that tends to weight us on the other side of it. It's like, wow, they have these problems. Can I really, what does this mean? And that tends to warp our ability to relate to somebody on a realistic level. Now, there are very concrete boundaries that I teach my clients and students about what's toxic and what's problematic, because they're very different things. Toxic behaviors, bar none, either control you, diminish you, harm you in some way, or require you to give yourself up in order to maintain the relationship. Those are, in my book, deal breakers. We don't play with people that treat us that way. Incompatibility issues could be emotional maturity, where they can work out an issue only if they're choosing to, and only if they're doing it through third-party therapy. You're not fixing it, period. You do not know how to fix them. It's not your job. You don't have that power. You're not qualified to do that. Your job is to be in the relationship, and then you guys work it together. There can also be just fundamental differences in how you see the world and what your priorities are, and you're going to have to respond to that appropriately by having honest communication and working towards the underlying need that is rooted in that, so you can have a better, healthier, more honest relationship. So it is hard to break out of, like you're saying, Angela, it is hard to break out of that black and white thinking. So what we do when we realize we're going either or, we switch to both and. And I find for us, in the way our brains work, it's best to write it down. So get a notebook, put a line down the middle, and put, I'm perceiving this, and this is, this is reality, and this is my perception. And then you can start to see what you're perceiving, what's really going on, and then you can create and statements. So I'm perceiving this is happening, and I'm feeling this way about it. This is really happening, and here's how I feel about it. That kind of thing. It starts to give more dimension to your thinking and allows you to see it on paper. When you can get things out of your head and put it on paper, it gets a lot easier to root into who you are regulate and trust yourself, because now you're not trying to contain it all in your head. Okay? So black and white thinking switches to technicolor thinking with one simple change in our thinking, and that is moving to a both and point of view. Allow that to reach you in, and allow that to impact all your life. Like, I'm worthy of love and they are too. They're worthy of success and I am too. I do that a lot with my competition. I see them succeeding and growing and I'm like, I'm worthy of that too. We're both worthy of it. We both can have that success. It's such an easier way of seeing the world, and it's more empowering because we all get to win in it. That's a huge deal when it comes to regulating our own points of view, being able to be accessible to our own success. So explore today where you're going black and white in your thinking, and then ask yourself, what else is there? Like, I'll give you some phrases. I actually typed them up before the class, before a little training today. It'd be like, I feel upset and curious. They're upset with me and they still love me. In healthy relationships, that's a huge and important signal. And we'll know they still love us because they're going to treat us with respect. They're not going to tear us down. They're not going to attack us. They're not going to gaslight us. They're going to say, you know, I don't like this choice. I don't like what happened here. I'm really frustrated or hurt by this. They're going to talk about the behavior. They're going to talk about the situation. They are not going to attack your character, okay? And they're still going to be warm and available and receptive to you, because that's what love does. It doesn't cut off love. It doesn't isolate you. It doesn't going to give you some sort of weird silent treatment or stonewalling to punish you. Instead, it's going to encourage. You're still going to have communication. You're still going to be open. Another thing that I use frequently, I'm disappointed with this outcome and I'm open to what else is possible. I don't like them and I respect who they are and what they choose to be, right? Stay out of their yard, stay in mine. This is all, guys, this is all fundamentally about how we see things, because when we change how we see things, we will see different things, and that will empower us to make bigger changes in our lives and see reality in a more open way, in a way that can empower us to have more of our own joy, our own satisfaction, and our own lasting healing, so we can get beyond that trauma, get beyond that codependency. Okay, so that is today's training, guys. I appreciate you showing up. Pretty short and right to the point. So if you're ready to break free of your codependency, then I invite you to join Codependency Confidence, where I'm going to teach you how to love yourself. I'm going to teach you how to reconnect to yourself, heal that internalized loneliness and emptiness, and I'm going to give you the skills that connect you back to your happiness and give you power back over your life. We do that in 3 separate trainings in the Codependency Confidence system. They are semi-guided. You also get weekly access to me through live mentoring hours. This is the system that results in over 92% of people participating in it, breaking free of their codependency, finding real love again, having relationships they enjoy, developing purpose and career jobs and businesses that they love, and they find that relief from their trauma. So if that's you, that's Codependency was made for you. Just click the link that I'll be posting in the comments below. If you're on YouTube, it's in the description below. Thank you guys again for showing up, and remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping, and I will see you guys in the next video. You guys have a great day.